Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, day 17 of the WarbossTae Painting Challenge, and I'm continuing on painting the bone colour, as I'm calling it, over the army. So what I've been doing is I've been working on the next two boards. You saw the first two boards yesterday. My plan is to lay down this bone colour on everywhere that I know it's going to go, then look at the army as a whole and then continue on with some extra stuff. So for example, little spikes and stuff on the warrior heads and things, I can look at doing those at the end. So my plan was to get that bone colour down as many areas as I knew it was going to go, and then sort of work from there. So I put in about 5 hours of painting on these two boards. Probably increased slightly by some of the bigger areas needing about 4 coats of paint, and also from some models causing me problems of where I'm going to put the colour. Okay, so let's put the camera down and have a closer look. I'll start with this board because this was the next board that I actually worked on. So let's just start with the raiders at the back. Not too much there. I basically did the front like blade on the tank, and I did take 4 coats of paint just to get a nice thin smooth coverage. That is the raider that I had to do that mega sort of restoration on, and although it does have some form of blade at the back, I didn't paint that blade as a blade because I wanted it to match in as best I could with the rest of the army. And then the raider just at the back there, let me just lock this tripod off. So painted that one, all the bone colour there. That actually took 5 layers on that back fin to get it to look half decent, and then on the other side I did all the spikes and all the tops of the flags, etc. So quite a lot of work on that raider. Then I went into my Venoms, or the conversions anyway, from Vipers. I painted up the blade things at the front, and then it came to the Kronos and Talos. So I started off with the Talos, painted his front claws, those back fins, the little spike there. It was pretty decent. This one, I haven't got a clue. So far I've just painted the little spike just there, so it does have a bone colour on. My theory is that everything should have all of the colours on basically. The only exception to that would be the hair. I mean, if something doesn't have hair on, then you can't paint hair. So that was my sort of theory behind it, but I really did not think that this would look very good with bone coloured tentacles. I just don't think it will match it. I did consider doing, if I can just get this like that, these like blades at the top I think might look quite good, but it's almost impossible to paint the inside of that, and it would look really weird to have like just the bone colour on the outside. So I've abandoned that. So at this moment in time I'm just calling that done, and I'm just having that like one little spike of bone colour on there. At least it's got bone colour, and I think possibly having it totally different colour to that one just distinguishes it as a different model, because obviously it is the same model just converted slightly. So hopefully with the different colorations it's going to really make it stand out that it is a different model. So that's how far I got on that one. And then I did do, those are the 2 little netting things. I painted all the hooks that are on that. That's going to end up on that raider over there in the end. Okay, and then it was time for the scourges. So as far as I'm concerned, the scourges, all the bone colour is painted on these. So on these bat-winged one, I painted the tips of the little claws. It's like painted Tyranids actually. Any little spikes, and there weren't many, but a few little spikes I got painted. I painted their little toenails as well, and just mixed them up a bit really. So anything that had anything that resembled a spike got painted. So that's how the scourges are looking like so. Now I don't know if this is the way they're supposed to be, or if it was a modelling error on the person who built them, because obviously I was given these by Kiblums, who I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think Kiblums made them. But anyway, the wings are slightly odd because one side of the wings got claws and the other one's got feathers. And there's a mixture, so I have a feeling that somebody hasn't matched the wings up. But I'm actually liking that now because it means that I can get that bone colour on every single wing. Now if they were matched up, it means that some would just have feathers, some would just have claws. And I think without that little spot colour of bone on that wing, the wings would look a little bit too bland. So I'm happy with that, so that's cool. Right, it was then time to do the weapon options. I'm just skirting over my grotesques for now. Weapon options, I did all the blades on all of the weapon options. These are for the Venoms and the Raiders. And then, yes, it was time for the grotesques, all the rat ogres, which obviously I'm using as grotesques. These are the models which have caused me the most grief in terms of how to paint them. I think ultimately it's because obviously they're not the genuine model, so I'm sort of having to make it up. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that I now have orange on all of the models. If I just turn this one around, you can see the bow that I did before. So I took the plunge. I decided I just had to have orange in every single model. I always knew that was going to be the case, but I just didn't bring myself to do it at the beginning. But I have done it now. So that guy there, yes, although it's cloth, I painted the cloth around his head and arm orange. I figured it was the closest to armour. So he's got a little bit of an armour by wrapping a cloth around his head. But it does the job. It gets orange into him. And then the guy right down the end, the choices were limited, very limited on that model. So in the end, although no other gun has orange on, I decided just to put orange on his gun. It's got orange now, so I'm happy. Yeah, so every model has orange. I then went in and I painted all of the weapons. If I keep zooming the wrong way, where are we? Okay, so there you go. He's got his sword painted. That guy with his arm, another sword painted there. I did a few spikes on their backs. The grotesques aren't finished. I'm going to go in. I'm pretty sure I'm going to paint their claws, their fingernails and their toenails in this bone colour, and maybe some of the extra sort of spikes that are coming out of their bodies and stuff, and probably their teeth, to be fair. I'll probably paint their teeth as well. So I do have a bit more work to do on the grotesques, plus I have some more work to do on the witches and the Hellions and the warriors, putting in the last and final bone colours on any of the spikes that are left over. On this board, I think this is pretty much done. It's only whether I need to do any spikes that are on the drivers and stuff on those tanks. So, really happy with my progress. One more day left to do the rest of the bone colour. I'll try and do the rest of the bone colour, possibly wash the bone tomorrow. If not, it will just have to be washed the next day, but we'll see how we get on with time. As we start to answer this day's question. So let us have a look at today's question. Day 17. The 2016 painting challenge is in full swing. Future generations are watching you and contemplating taking part in the challenge next year. If you could talk to them directly to these prospective challengers, what would you tell them? What advice would you give at this point? Halfway to the end of the WarbossTae Painting Challenge, how are you feeling about your project? What are your plans to carry you to the finish line? Okay, I'm going to answer that last bit first. So I'm feeling really good about my project. I've put loads and loads of time in every day. I don't feel any fatigue at the moment. I do have a bit of a stiff neck, I must admit, from being in the same position for like 5 hours every day. But certainly I'm not lacking in any motivation. So I'm really happy with what I've done, and I can definitely see me finishing this army. by the end of the challenge. Okay, so if you were thinking about doing this challenge, what advice, etc., would I give? So I would say the first thing you need to consider is exactly how much time you are going to get for the challenge. And the only reason why I'm doing this massive challenge here is basically because my wife is away. So she's gone back to her home country for a few weeks. So I knew I had 4 weeks by myself, looking after my daughter. But, you know, if I wanted to stay up to 3 o'clock in the morning painting, I can. So that's why I set myself a huge challenge. So first of all, see what sort of painting time you get. So if you just get an hour a day, you know you've only got 7 hours a week to paint, then pick something that you think you can paint, you know, something which is achievable. Your project has to be achievable, but you don't want it too achievable. You don't want to say, I'm just going to paint one model, you know, in 4 weeks. You know, you do want to challenge yourself slightly, because that's the whole point of a challenge, isn't it? It's a challenge. So I'd say make sure it's achievable, but make sure you have to work for it. Don't make it too easy. So that's the first thing that I would say. Then the second thing would be planning, which is what the challenge does anyway with its weekly objectives, which is really, really useful. But I actually go one further than that. So I have my weekly objectives that I want to do, and I've actually split that down into daily objectives. And that works really, really well because it gives you something to achieve. Like today, I wanted to paint the bone colour on all of these boards, so these 2 boards here, and I wasn't going to stop until it was done. That was my target. And if I had finished it early, because I've already planned the week's worth of painting out, if I had finished early, then I don't have to carry on painting and do the next stage. I can say, right, well, I've done today's task, have a rest, watch a movie, do whatever, and then tomorrow I've got my target set for tomorrow. So have daily targets, not just a weekly target. Definitely have a daily target. What else was there? Blah, blah. What advice should give them at this point? Yeah, that's it really. Apart from, yeah, if you are considering doing the challenge, then definitely do it, because it's really, really good fun. Having the questions extra as well just makes the videos interesting. So if you don't actually do any painting, like, you know, you don't have to just turn the camera and say, hey, hello, day 17, I did nothing. You know, you can turn the camera on and say, hey, day 17, I did nothing, but I've got a question to answer. You know, so it gives you video content as well. So, yeah, it's a great challenge. Definitely should do it. Okay, so that's it for today's video. Bit of a long one, bit of a ramble. Sorry about that, but there you go. I'm sure tomorrow's will be a bit shorter as I continue to paint the bone colour on this army. Thanks for watching.